We're better together with Ann and Heather.
We're so excited to have Jason Tartick back on the show.
So
He's going to
excited.
talk to us about Money Matters. I thought that we'd just give a little refresher on his credentials and what makes him qualified to talk to us about this.
Great idea.
People may recognize him when he appeared on
Is that what makes him
on The
qualified?
Bachelorette. No, but it's just a fun little tidbit that people will be like, I know that guy. Where do I know him from?
Yes.
You know him from The Bachelorette. And he actually
yes.
just proposed to
the best one.
Bachelorette, Caitlin Bristow, which is how we got to know him
Yes.
on Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
But what you may not know is that Jason worked as a corporate banker for nearly 10 years and earned his MBA in accounting and finance and has executed about $150 million in lending to mid-market sized companies across the country. But he hung up his corporate banker suit to pursue his entrepreneurial spirit. He founded Restart, an educational consulting company centered around career navigation and money management, which is what he's helping us with. Jason is also the host of his own podcast, Trading Secrets, and he is the money maestro for us on Better Together.
Amen.
Lucky to have him. All right, hope you enjoy the episode. Cheers.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Jason Tartick's One for the Money on Better Together with Ann and Heather.
This is our second episode. We are doing the show the first of every month where Jason comes on and gives us tips and tactics and a plan to take control of our finances. And we're starting at the very base. The first episode, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. We talked about tackling debt because you cannot do anything until you tackle debt. So now we're back to report on what we did and to take it to the next level. Welcome back, Jason Tartick.
Welcome back.
Let's go. Thank you guys.
Congratulations.
Oh,
my
thank
goodness.
you
We
guys
are
so much for having
He
me
is
back.
no longer a bachelor. For those of you who have been under a rock, Jason finally proposed to Caitlin Bristow.
We are just so, I think the whole world is so tickled and delighted.
Yeah, you guys are
That's
just a
so
fantastic
nice of you
couple.
guys. It's been such an awesome 2 weeks. And Caitlin and I finally got to, she hasn't seen her mom in a year and a half. So we got to celebrate with her mom this past week. And it's so sweet of you guys, but it's been just an awesome 2 weeks.
Well, I got to say, you are glowing. Truly. And
He's
now
he's tan.
Yeah,
what
but,
it is.
but now we want to get right into it because we are so grateful for your time. So let's go.
All right. So for the first episode, I think what we talked about is the fact that everyone hears money and finance, and the first thing they want to do is jump to investing. Where do I make all my millions? How quickly can I get a return? And I said, hang on, guys, to take 5 steps forward, we got to take 3 steps back. We got to hit the brakes. And I think the first step to personal finance is really mastering your debt. It's understanding what debt you have, where you have it, the cost of your debt, understanding the structures and how much you're paying, because we can't get into investing and making money on our money and everything else that sounds sexy and cool until we take care of the thing that we all kind of hate to talk about, which is debt. So step 1 was let's get our debt under control. And Heather, you're going to have to remind me, but I think one of the things we put in place for you was to address your debt, get comfortable with the uncomfortable conversation of money, and start opening those credit card statements. So, I mean, I got to kick it back to you and ask you, did you do it?
He remembers that my job was to open my darn mail.
That's right.
I pay the bill, just to be clear. I just hated opening the statements because they depressed me. Mm-hmm. And this is, as we talked about last time, my leftover debt from the Great Recession. So I have these credit cards that I don't use, but the debt just lingers. And so I opened them. I looked at my percentage rates. I have 2 credit cards. One of them had 14% APR. Is that the right letters?
Yeah,
APR?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other one was 11%.
Okay.
So I started with the 14%.
There you go.
I just have to say I'm very proud of you for sharing this.
Round of applause for
I
Heather.
can see you feel very vulnerable, and I know that. And thank you for being so honest.
I also found some tax stuff in there as I was opening the mail, but it was
we'll cover that next time.
No worries. It was actually all fine. I'm kidding, sort of. So I found a credit card company that was 0% on balance transfers for 22 months. And I
Amazing.
transferred that debt right over.
That is awesome.
Can you believe it?
That's so,
Look at
honestly,
what-
there's so many steps you took there, right? Acknowledging,
felt good.
understanding your rate, acknowledging the debt, and then putting a solution in place, Heather. That's awesome.
Honestly, and that's exactly what we want for our listeners to be in touch with. And we have gotten some questions about this very same thing. I think people are having a real desire to hear your wisdom on some difficult situations.
Well, we had somebody, Alex from Chicago, asked, when I transfer my balance, should I close the account I transferred from? And then I thought, oh, when I read that question, I'm like, I have that same question. My other credit card that I transferred it from is still open. What should we do?
Yeah. So first of all, it's awesome that you transferred it to an account where you have 22 months of 0% interest. Now think about what you would have paid in interest with 14 and 11% of whatever that balance is. I could tell you it's material. And now for 22 minutes, you have the best solution in place where you're paying 0%, 22 months. So make sure that you put your payment plan in a process, Heather, that at the end of that 22 months, your debt is clear. Right? So now you're going 22 months, no interest, and you're going to pay it off. But now that's to your
goal.
Question, right? So let's do that. And then
So now I have a timeline.
And if you don't get there, let's put a plan in place 3-5 months before that 22 months is up so that we're not rolling that balance over to another interest rate and having the same headache. So that's step one. But step two is now that you have this credit card and you have a 0% interest rate, you're asking me, what do we do with it? And the big thing is you actually want to keep it open. Now, the question is, why do you want to keep it open? When your credit score is determined, what they say, FICO will say that 30% of how they determine what your credit score is based on capacity. And capacity is the percentage of credit limit that's actually available, right? So if you say, let's just say your limit on that card, guys, I'm making this up, but let's just say it's $10,000. Now that you have zero balance on a $10,000 credit card, which is a loan, a form of debt, your credit score is saying, ding, 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 this is a good thing. It's a good thing because we like to see the fact that she has $10K available, there's a zero balance, and it's not being used. That's what capacity is. And capacity will drive 30% of your overall actual score.
Well, that leads me to a question then. Should we call our credit card companies and ask them to increase our limit, even if we don't plan to use it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a really good question. But the thing is if you increase your limit, that is going to be another form of what drives your credit, which is accumulation of debt. So 10% of your score is actually driven by accumulation of debt. What does that mean? Let's break it down in simple terms. That's what have you done in the last 12 to 8 months? Have you opened a ton of credit cards? Are you getting inquiries? Is your credit being dinged for looking your credit up? So the thing is it could be counterproductive. If you have a balance, you're looking to increase it because any company is going to then have to do an inquiry on you, right? If you want to increase your credit limit, you're increasing your exposure and risk to them. So they have to go through the process of seeing if you're worthy of doing it, which could work against you. So I wouldn't recommend increasing limits just to keep it at a zero balance, but I would recommend if you transfer it to keep that credit card open and just keep it at a rolling $0 balance.
Okay, that brings up a question that Kelly from Colorado Springs, who listened to the last episode, had. She said she tried to transfer her balance.
That was my question.
To a 0% interest rate, but she was declined for bad credit. Now I'm thinking about somebody. I want us to answer a question, but I'm also brings up another question. So let's say she tries with one credit card company to transfer this balance. If she keeps trying, is that going to be dings against her credit?
Yes, that's gonna beat your credit up. If you keep trying and failing, it's gonna look as though those are your inquiries, right? Your accumulation of debt, that's gonna be your 10%. So that's gonna work against you. What I'll first tell her is that according to like Experian, around 40% of people have fair and or very poor credit scores. So very poor is like the 300 range to like the 550-ish range. And then fair is like 550-ish to like 650-ish. So know that that's 40%, right? That's a lot of people. You're not alone. So don't be embarrassed. And it's a good thing that you're asking this question because you're getting comfortable with the fact that you need to put a solution in place, right? So if you have 0% and you can't transfer it to a credit card, credit cards are going to be your highest risk debt for the banks. It's the highest risk because they have no collateral. So therefore, it's going to be the hardest to get, right? If you have a house, I think we talked about this last episode, and you go belly up on your mortgage, that bank could go get a house. If you have a credit card, they can't get, the shirt or poster or piece of art you bought. They're not going to collect it. So it's the highest risk. So if you got declined, that makes sense because it's the hardest one to get approved. So you go down the list. The next idea would be a personal loan. The next idea would be a home equity, if you have some equity in some type of real estate. Another idea is your retirement plan. If you have a 401k or a SEP or an IRA, anything like that, you can borrow against those monies. Another idea is to get a cosigner. If you have some partner or a mother, father, or someone who will work with you, that you have a good trusting relationship, that you know they have good credit, and you put a plan in place, you get a cosigner. And then another option is let's fix your credit. And there are debt management plans out there. Now, you got to be careful when you say debt management plans because there's a lot that will completely screw you over and take advantage of you. So what's the first step? There's not-for-profit debt management plans out there. There's credit counselors that do this work for the good of the people rather than trying to make profit on it. So Google and look for not-for-profit credit counseling. And they can help you put a plan in place that can really get you to a structure that you need. But the first thing is if you're getting declined because of your credit, let's find a way to get that credit score up.
Okay. That's great because we had somebody else, Jeannie from Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus.
Jeannie from Columbus,
I'm just
Ohio.
reveling in the knowledge that I'm learning.
But she wanted to
so cool.
She wanted to know about those companies. If you use those companies, do they hurt your credit? And your advice to her is to look for the not-for-profit companies.
Yeah. So, first, anyone out there right now, I don't care if you're a multi-jillionaire or you're buried in debt, if you haven't pulled your credit report in a while, go pull your credit report because
Does that affect your credit?
Yeah. When you pull your credit report, it's very insequentially, like it's nothing. It's immaterial. It's not, if you do it once and you haven't done it in a while, it's not going to really impact your credit.
Just don't do it every other month.
Right. Don't do it I would say don't do it every week. If you do it once a quarter, that's great. But pull the credit. The credit report is what's dictating your score, right? It shows you all the debt that you've had, when you open the debt up, no matter what form it is, what the balances are, and what payments there are. A lot of time there are inaccuracies in reports. So anyone listening could have a credit report right now where there's an inaccuracy, and you have to report that because that'll impact your credit. So anyone out there, if you haven't done this practice in the last 3 months, I don't care how good things are, pull it so you can see your whole history, make sure it's accurate. And if there's anything to dispute, you should absolutely dispute that. And then the other thing is fraud these days is insane. Right. So there could be someone right now, while you're not listening, using your social security, using your identity, and ripping your credit apart. And the only way to get an understanding of what credit lies under your social security, as long as your social security has been around, is getting and pulling a credit report. And you could do that. You go to Credit Karma, you can go to credit.com, Experian.com, all those places. You could do that. But to go back to the debt management plan, I would highly, highly recommend against that. Because what I like to do and all the stuff I do, whether it's my podcast or my stuff that I talk about this, let's pull the curtain back. Let's talk about the dirt. And I call it like the trading secret. The trading secret is with these people, what they do
Which is the
they
name of your podcast, right?
Yeah, that's the name of the podcast. But they have these sharks that come out and they say, we'll take your debt. And so they buy your debt. So what they're doing is they're going to all those creditors that you owe money and they're aggressively negotiating. And let's say you owed $50,000 to Bank of America. These sharks are negotiating and fighting and lawyering up. And they tell Bank of America, we'll negotiate with you. You're not going to get this money. We'll give you 10 grand. And Bank of America is like, you know what? We'll take it. So Bank of America takes the 10 grand. They then write that debt off. And then you got to go pay that shark a lot of money. Who's that really impacting? That's killing you, because Bank of America, do you think Bank of America is ever going to do business with you again when they just had to write off $50,000 and only get
Right.
10K back? That's going to hurt your credit. It's going to hurt your reputation with them. And guess who's making all the money? The shark who's negotiating on your behalf and really crushing your credit. So I would recommend against using that, because I think the only advantage to that is you're not going to get the creditors calling you all the time. Other than that, there's a laundry list of things in the long run that will really impact you.
As I was about to transfer my balance, I realized that this genius was about to transfer a Bank of America balance to Bank of America. I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. But I was alerted to the fact that I was a moron when I was about to type in my social security number, which I think is something for people to remember, is at that moment that you type in your social security number and hit submit, that's the moment that you have just tagged your credit in some way. That's the moment that makes it real, correct? You should just
because
be really,
they have access to
you should
anything?
just be really aware when you're submitting your social security number to anything, is my understanding.
Correct. That's going to go under that 10% of accumulation of debt. So just the full makeup of your credit score, you got 30% capacity, which we already talked about, right? That's the limits. Then you have 35% of payment history. So that's the biggest one. Are you paying on time? If you're not, put an auto reminder on your phone. There's auto pay now. You don't have to do the work. You go to your bank, they'll pay it for you. Get the auto payments. Your payment history is the number one most important thing. That's 35%. You have 10%, which is your length of credit. How long have you had the credit companies, the credit cards or whatever it is? How long have you had credit? The other 10% is the mix. So it's good to have a healthy, diversified portfolio of debt. What does that mean? If you have an auto loan, credit card, student debt, and a mortgage, that's pretty darn diversified. If you have 5 credit cards and no other debt, that's going to work against you. But the two biggest pieces are payment history and then capacity.
Okay, I have to stop for 1 second because I have to ask you if looking up your credit report is our to-do for the next month. Would you put that second to opening up your bills and looking at your credit cards? Like, get your credit report? Is that our, we want to...
That is a great, great little to-do for anyone listening and for both you guys. Pull your credit report and just check it out. First of all, it's kind of fascinating. You'll be like, wow, I opened that credit card how long ago? But just make sure there's no errors. That's the number one thing. And then the second thing is I'm gonna give a task to everyone here too, is get either reminders on your cell phone or put auto pay in place, because payment history is so important. Those are the two factors that impact your credit. It's the easiest fix. So those are the two pieces of homework for everyone listening. That's what I'm going to give.
But Jason, am I wrong? I have seen so many people who don't understand that they can go to their bank website and you can go to bill pay. You can set up every single thing. And it's shocking to me that people don't know that, but that's what they can do. You don't have to go to your bank. You can go to yourself.
Hey,
if you set it
by
up.
the way, people know that. It's just that there's some people that don't know if they're going to have the money there to pay their bills. That is why some people don't do it. Honestly.
I understand that that's a different situation. I'm talking about just not even understanding that can be done.
So one quick thing, Heather, sorry to interrupt, but one thing is you're right? People, they might not have the amount in their banks. And then what happens is you get the overdraft fees, and you have the overdraft fees so that it keeps overdrafting and you're paying day by day. So another to do is every American has the right to tell their bank not to overdraft their account. You have to let them know, because there's a plan now in place that if you tell them not to auto draft, they cannot auto draft it, and you'll be notified by your bank that you go into a negative balance. So do you think the banks are going to tell you that? They're not, because they make a whole lot of damn money on overdraft fees. Call your bank. Don't let me overdraft, and notify me when I am hitting that point to avoid that. And then there's also, you could put, while your credit is good and things are going well, emergencies happen, disasters happen, you can get a personal line of credit, which usually comes at a low interest rate. You can attach it to the bank account, and God forbid it does go under your balance, it can pull from that, which is an interest rate of 3 to 7%, as opposed to that credit card, which is 14, 11, and some of the higher ones are in the 20, 25% range.
But could present a danger if what you're really saying, like, keep to it. Get your bank to not do the overdraft. Let them know.
Yes.
That's great advice.
That's amazing.
Oh, the one last
Okay.
one, because I used to work for a bank. So I used to be, when I learned banking, I went through this rotational program and I was in the branches. So I was the person that you would come to when you overdrafted. So I know all the tricks. You can negotiate that. If you overdraft and you're not doing it over and over and over, if it's like a first time or second time, sometimes a third time offense, you can negotiate with your banker. Listen, I screwed up. It won't happen again. I'm on auto pay. It's the easiest thing to do. It's called a force pay, to force pay auto draft fees and to take care of it. So if you have overdraft fees, negotiate those, get those back.
Love it.
Incredible advice. Can you sum it up for us, Heather? Every single tip. You were supposed to take it slow, Jason. Well, you have a lot to do.
I know what our homework is.
Our homework.
But by the way, I'd like you all to know that by opening up my mail, I actually already did this homework, because in my Discover card, it actually shows me what my credit score is.
Oh, but it doesn't tell you the list of
Yes, you're right.
Why the credit score is
But if you just want to know
what
what your credit score is, some credit card companies show you if you still get that paper statement like I do, which is probably another thing to add to my list to make that paper list, because but it does show you. But you are right. The itemized thing shows you where the issues
real truth
are. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's number one. Heather's ahead of us. Number two.
I don't know.
I could tell you number two.
know.
Pull your credit report.
Yes.
You gotta pull your credit reports, which you already did, but Anne's got to do that.
Because
even though you have
auto pay,
even though you have your credit score, it doesn't mean you have your report in front of you, right? So that's important to know. You might know your score.
Get your credit report. Know your credit score. Get your credit report. Put things on auto pay.
if you can. Maybe look at a loan if you can't, but try to get those payments made.
Or prioritize, say, look, if I can't pay all this, then I can't do all this.
Right.
Like prioritize those payments to going out and, spending money at restaurants or whatever. Know that money has to go out first.
Or tell the truth about what your money, but I mean, I feel like you just keep encouraging us to look at the truth. The truth can be handled. One of the things we're hearing questions. I love that you're answering in such a positive way. You're making us not feel ashamed about whatever the situation is that we're in with our money, and looking at it and knowing we can overcome it. And that is so cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then call the banks and tell them to not allow you to overdraft, which I think is especially great for somebody like my 20-year-old daughter who's, working in smaller sums
I'm sorry. Yes, but I'm rambling back because the not-for-profit counseling is one of the things that I think is genuinely important for everyone to know, that you can get help without paying for it, because of course you're in debt and you don't have any money. The fact that you shared that with us means we can all get help for it. Go find it, Google it, and that's, again, so great.
Exactly. And I think that the takeaway too is, like, don't be embarrassed by being in a tough situation, because the system is set up to put us in a tough position, right? You think about student debt, the debt we're all burdened with and carrying. There's nothing wrong with businesses or marketing, but a lot of these credit card companies are marketing to us. Banks make a ton of money on overdraft fees. So the thing is the more information you have, the better consumer you can be. And you can't run from it. You can't hide from it. You got to own it. Just own it. It is what it is. Take control of it. Otherwise, the system, the way it's set up, it's designed to take control and advantage of you. And so that don't let other people make money on you. Find a way to take control of your money. And as we talked about in the last episode, when you take control of your money, you take control of so many other aspects of your life, your independence, your strength, your courage, your confidence. It's endless. So I love this. Really important.
Could we have a better guru teaching us about how to be healthy and everything? You are so fantastic. Thank you so much. I can't wait till the next episode.
I'd like to remind everybody, because by the time this airs, people will have listened to our expert on our emotional health. And one of the things that she gave us as a tip that we thought was fantastic is about controlling your worry. And I know that with money, there's a lot of worry. And she gave us this tip that set aside time to worry. Schedule your worry time, and that is the only time you are allowed to worry. So I encourage everybody, if you're worried about your finances, remember the tip that Dr. E gave us, which was schedule that time. Don't have it be first thing when you wake up. Don't have it be first thing before you go to bed. Have it be, 3 o'clock when you're driving. That is your scheduled worry time. That's when you worry about your money. You're not allowed to worry about it at any other time. So Dr. Money, where do we go? Dr. Debt, where do we go?
Dr. Own It.
Because the idea here is that Jason's going to shepherd us through the very beginning, which is, understand your debt, control your debt. Where are we going to go from there?
So I think
what's next?
Yeah. So once we nail the debt, we got to go to what sparked the debt, which is usually the spending. And budgeting 101 it's really an art and a science. People think it's easy. Just watch, save money and see what I'm doing. It's not easy because we all have different tendencies and different things drive us to spend in different ways that we shouldn't. And so I think what we'll talk about next time is all about budgeting, how to put a plan in place in a tool that could work for literally almost anyone. So I think that's what we tackle, budgeting. And eventually we will get to the tip of the iceberg, the sexiest place to be, and that's investing. But we can't get there until we put the work in.
If anyone can make us want to listen to a talk about budgeting, it's you. Thank you so much for being here with us on One for the Money. Jason Tartick.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And a big thanks to our Better Together team. That's Ryan Tillotson, Sebastian Alcala.
And you, Elizabeth Keener.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. And of course, Ann and Heather.
We're better together with Ann and Heather.
Jason Tartick is widely known as a contestant on ABC's The Bachelorette, but he's a bachelor no more. Wait, hang on, I got to start that over. You guys may know him as The Bachelorette. What's so funny about The Bachelorette? He was on The Bachelorette.
You may know him as The Bachelorette.
Jason Tartick is, no, sit, drink your beer and sit there. We got to know him through Dancing with the Stars because his fiance. And here we go. All right. For those of you, you know what? I'm doing it this time and don't laugh. Okay.
Here she goes, folks. I hope she gets this right. It's Jason Tartick. And by the way, we're doing One for the Money. It's his second show. We can't wait.
One
Episode
for the money.
2.
First of every month. We thought we'd just
you know what, Ryan?
Straw Hut Media.